Hey there, Squirrel Army. How's it going? For today, I'm gonna be talking about that I was wrong about stacks.
You can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing.
Alrighty, so yeah, years ago, I never really played stacks, and I know a lot of people who did, and I did find it very annoying to play against stack decks. But a lot of the stack decks that I used to play against were really unfair as well. They really didn't let you play much of a game, honestly. They'd just play all the stacks pieces, but I've kind of come around a bit on stacks. I don't think it's that bad to run a few stacks pieces and things like that. Um, Especially when you play against people who are in higher power decks. It is a bit nasty sometimes against people who are playing lower power decks, or whatever, but it's still, for the most part, all you're trying to do is slow them down. You're not really trying to screw them up per se. You're just trying to make it a little bit harder sometimes for them to do some of the more degenerate things like tutoring. I always think tutoring's a bit degenerate, even though like land tutors exist, like fetch lands and that sort of stuff. But even that's okay. But I do know that a lot of people don't like searching the libraries and things like that mostly either. But I've kind of gone away from that too, except for the few fetch lands that I've got. Um, you know, and that's mainly for deck thinning or because I've got a lot of those cards that play cards from the top of your library, and sometimes you've got lands on the top that you can't do anything with, so you're just like, well, I'll shuffle my deck and see what I get, like, and of course it's always another land, but still. But still, yeah, I've changed my perspective on stacks and tax cards. I don't think playing a few stacks tax cards is too bad, but if you're playing a lot of them or you're playing a dedicated tax stacks deck, it can be really nasty. Like even like Smothering Tithe gets extremely annoying all the time because it's always like, are you going to pay the two? Are you going to pay the two? And 99% of the time, people aren't going to pay the two because unless you're like in a deck that can really generate a lot of mana or you got your own Smothering Tithe, it's like, dude, I just don't have the mana to play for it for most of the time because it's like, once I get to the late game, oh yeah, sure I will, but it always seems to come out, that either early-ish or mid-game when it's actually pretty decent. Never seems You never see them otherwise because they're just not good enough, late game and that sort of thing, or whatever. And I do consider that a tax card too, really. Though some people don't because they just don't pay, but you're just giving your opponent free resources, so that's not good because again, giving them those free resources means they're getting way ahead, and yeah, it's not good if they're getting way ahead because you're not gonna be able to keep parity with them and that sort of thing. So it is one of those things that you kind of got to think about sometimes, and it is a bit annoying to have to be like keeping everything in mind. Same with like Ristic Study. I think that's a tax card, honestly, as well. Um, and I think I don't like playing against Ristic Study again with certain decks. Like I had this really weird artifact deck that I was playing, and it was basically the precursor to my four color deck that I've built in the last few years. Um, so I was trying to have my commander make treasures and make all kinds of different artifacts to tap for mana. For instance, sorceries and that, and then get like a lot of value out of casting lots of different spells and stuff. And that's the problem with a deck like that, because a lot of the stuff that you're trying to do is all these cantrips and sort of things like that. So you're drawing a lot of cards, or you've got a lot of effects that say when you cast an artifact, or when you cast an instant or sorcery, you draw a card, or whatever. So yeah, and things like that. So you're also triggering the smothering tide too. So, and when you're doing that, there are also like, wow, they've already got all this free treasure, and it's like I can't pay because I don't know what I'm gonna get, and I need to find my win condition. Like, so I just gave up on that deck because again, it wasn't really my style of strategy. I just wanted to try it out, and eventually I figured out how to make that work better. But anyway, it's just really annoying to pay against some of those things, but still, I don't think running them is bad. I don't think that you should be judged, I guess, for running some of them. If you're running, again, a lot of them, or your main theme is stax or whatever, then yeah, maybe you deserve it a bit to get some flack for playing too much stacks. And that's where finding the balance comes in, I think. I want to be able to, rock up to a table with some people and just play the deck and just be like, hey, if you're tutoring, don't tutor unless you pay 2 mana or whatever. Keep that in mind until this creature dies or whatever. So again, or, I've got this in, you know, that sort of strategy, because again, I don't want my opponents to tutor, because you never know what your opponents are tutoring for. So either taxing them out of tutoring or limiting their tutoring is good. I was thinking about the ones that say you can't play stuff during my turn, but like for the most part, the things that people are going to play during your turn are instants. So they're going to play their Swords to Plowshares or their Path to the Extra, and maybe some artifact or enchantment removal. But so I was like, well, instead of like having those things that say you can't play on my turn, though there is one in one deck, but still, instead of having that, I might have the things that give my stuff ward, because, well, that's kind of a similar sort of thing. It's protecting my stuff in that way, making it harder for people to target my stuff. So, they've got to really think about it. I was actually thinking about Tide Taker because that's kind of like Ward. So, but then again, I was like, well, Ward's a lot better because it's not just during your turn, because you could pass your turn and then, Steve starts his turn and then, does his stuff, and then Greg comes along and Swords to Plowshares is my thing, and my stuff doesn't protect me because it's no longer my turn, but Ward will, so it's more universal. So I was kind of like, well, yeah, but it does prevent blowouts or counter spells and things like that. So I'm not 100%, but it is tough to figure it out, because it's one of those things of the deck and the direction and what you can kind of fit in or what you can cut out and things like that. So yeah, it is a bit of back and forth sometimes about, how much deck space did you have and how much taxing do you want to do? What kind of taxing do you want to do? I think, I guess as sort of said, again, taxing tutoring is really good. Protecting your stuff with things like Ward, really good. Slowing things down, so things entering tapped, is pretty good, because you don't just want somebody to, play their thing and be like, cool, now I'm just gonna go to combat and attack you and kill you, like Cranko and decks like that and whatnot. You want to be like, cool, I've got one turn, like all these hasty things, like, man, I'm not going to be able to deal with them. So when they enter tap, they can't attack you, so just slowing them down, and I only have one of those effects, so just, not too much of it, but just enough to hopefully slow people down here and there. But yeah, I do think it's okay, as I sort of said, to play some stacks. It becomes a problem, as I sort of say, when you have too much. Like obviously, if you're playing CDH or whatever, that's a bit of a different story. But just for casual Magic, most people, like even me, I don't want to play against too much. I don't want to play against too much stacks, because it does really hurt the flow of the game and makes the game too slow sometimes if people are playing too much, stuff like Drain Smash Straight. I think that's a really nasty card. Like, yeah, it does stop Cascade, but it basically stops people playing the game of Commander. So yeah, like some of the things that say no ETBs, like not that a lot of my stuff has ETBs, but a lot of decks rely on ETBs, so I just like, yeah, no, that's alright. I did have Elish Norn in one deck for a while, but it wasn't really to stop other people, it was really to get double triggers. And then I read, you know what, there's not enough triggers to double. So, or all the other stuff that's kind of making extra tokens is probably going to do a better job. So, and again, when you have an ETB on a creature like that, means it's usually a one-off. So I'm not a huge fan of those one-offs. I want to keep consistent advantage, not just here's one thing. Okay, cool. It's never doing anything again. It's nice when you do get something straight away, but yeah, it is a little bit bad when you're like getting something and it's like, oh, well, it doesn't do anything else. It's just going to sit here on the field, like doing nothing. But yeah, it is what it is. But if you've got like Waldrotha or Marin and things like that, obviously it's a bit different because again, you can recur those things perhaps. So yeah, but those are my thoughts. You guys can let me know your thoughts about stacks, writing them down there in the comments below. Do you hate stacks? Do you like stacks? How many stacks pieces do you play? How much is too many? How much is, too few? Because again, you can have too few very easily, like none. I mean, I know some people wouldn't place any, but still, I think if you're playing them or you're not playing them, you need to play some because you need to realize, like I've said before, it's not about just winning the game, it's about not losing the game. So just slowing your opponents down those one or two times here or there just like means that you get the chance to be like, cool, now I'm not dead this turn and I might be able to do something. Who knows? Maybe I'll be able to do nothing, but still, at least now I have the opportunity to do something rather than just be sitting here and going, wow, cool, now the game's over. I mean, yes, you can shuffle up and play again, but still, you want to win, you want to be like, cool, I won, or whatever. But still, or at least you want it to be an interesting game, not just, oh, this person played Cranko and everything had haste and the game was over in 2 turns or whatever. So, but that is it. Anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed. Hope you'll join me again in the next one.